So another job I have to do, the still, like I say, 11th of April, so there's going to be very few days that are warm enough to do any fiberglass work. So I have lots of other work to do though. This hull needs to be sanded down, and my initial thought was just sand it and get a half decent surface on it, but I don't know if you can tell, I sanded this last spring before I flipped it. I thought it'd be easier when it was upside down, and it's kind of smooth but far from factory finish, and I'm really not happy with it. So I've decided I'm going to do some more thorough sanding with some 50 grit paper, like a lot of sanding, and then some filling with thickened gel coat in any little divots, because there are a bunch of them. And then I'm going to try masking everything I care about and spraying gel on. I've watched some YouTube videos. I think it looks feasible. Obviously I'll have to wait for a very no wind day so I don't have it blowing all over everything, and we'll see how that goes. But I want to get a better finish on this, and there's no time like now. I've done a complete sanding with wet 40 grit random orbital sander. I've spent many hours getting it down to where it's starting to peek through in a few places down to the fiberglass, just kind of there. And most of it's still white, but every once in a while there's a little speck of fiberglass peeking through. And so now what I'm doing, well, just to show you what I'm trying to fix, if it's hard to see, but I don't know if there's just some minor, you know, it almost feels smooth, but it's not. There's just some minor little imperfections. Maybe that light shows it better. You can just see there's some worse than others. There's that guy there, I mean, it's not even a 16th inch deep, but you're never making that smooth. And it's, yeah, like I say, it's pretty good, but not as good as I'd like. So I've sanded the entire hull for days, and then I wiped it all down with acetone to get any, I don't know, anything left that might be an issue. And so now what I'm doing is I'm taking some gel coat and I'm adding in some Cabasil to thicken it up a bit. And so the transom here, I don't think this video is going to remotely show it. There's some reflection there. It's so much smoother now. That's one coat. I'm going to do one coat horizontally and one coat vertically, and then sand it again. And then I'm going to try spraying the gel coat on, because you just can't brush it or roll it, and you know, it just pebbles it up and then you sand it all off again, so it just doesn't work. So my issue with spraying is I'm outdoors, so I'm going to have to find a day that's not windy. I'm going to mask everything, and I've watched some YouTube videos. It doesn't look like it mists up in clouds in the air as bad as spraying paint, which I've done that before, but I did it with good ventilation and everything. Here I'll obviously have good ventilation. Problem is it might be too good. So yeah, so I've made up 2 little batches of this thickened gel coat. I'm troweling it on. I'm not, like, I'm scraping it off. It's just filling the divots. An inch in a margarine tub did 20 feet of this side of the hull. So it's not a lot of quantity going on, but it's filling all the little divots, and it's looking pretty smooth now. But then I'm going to go vertically, because obviously there's some little ridges and stuff that I'm riding across that if I go the other way, it'll get. So this is where it ends from the, right in this area here is where it's troweled here, and you can see some divots and stuff there that haven't been filled yet. That's where I haven't done yet. So now I will mix up some more. I just thought I'd do a little video to show what's going on. Well, it's been a while since I've updated the progress on the boat. Been working at getting a shine on the hull. first of all, I did a major sanding, and then I did a filling of all the little imperfections, and there were thousands, by basically troweling thickened gel coat, 2 coats over the whole boat. Now, I didn't like layer it on, I only skimmed it, so I scraped on the high points and filled the low points, and I did 2 coats of that, and then another major sanding. I do like half a day, and that's about all my body could take, and so that would be, I don't know, 4 days in a row, 5 days, I forget how long it took to get through it all. And so then starting yesterday, I sprayed it. So I've done 2 coats without wax in the gel coat, and then a final coat with wax in the gel coat. And here, I'll show you what I have going on here. Yeah, so before I could spray, I had to do a major masking. So I put plastic up on the cabin and hung plastic down along the bottom so it wouldn't get on the trailer, and then did some extra where the tires are, and I covered the trailer up here with drop sheets, and deck has drop sheets. The gel coat isn't too bad for overspray. It doesn't mist the way paint does, but it still gets on things. So yeah, I masked it all, did 2 coats with no wax in the gel coat, and then a top coat with wax in it, and I just did that here this afternoon. It's coming up on 4 o'clock now. I started it after lunch. So now it's at the point where I get to sand again. But it's a pretty nice surface. I don't know if you can see, it's, you know, it's got a texture to it. It's too thick to lay down nice. That's why you can't spray gel coat the way you can spray paint, but I've got 3 coats on it, so now I can sand it smooth and hopefully give a nice update of a shiny, smooth hull in the next while. I'm gonna give my body a rest after all this work. It's beat, but yeah, it didn't go without its challenges though. So yesterday I decided the weather was perfect for doing this. I had planned on starting it today, but yesterday the weather was even better than today. I needed low wind, what wind there was in the right direction so it wouldn't go up my neighbors' cars and such. And yesterday was perfect. So I hustled in the morning, got everything masked and prepped, and then I started spraying after lunch. So I have a decent compressor. It wasn't 100% up to the job, but it was it was up to the job. It was barely adequate. It's rating this little guy here, which that owner's manual is for the new one. So this little guy here, he's about 10 years old, and I thought it was working fine. I use it all the time in the shop for all kinds of, you know, nailers and such, and it works great. But when I started painting and it ran continuously to feed the gun, it did that for about maybe 5 minutes, and then I guess it overheated or whatever, and it shut off. And it took me a minute to figure out what went wrong. Just paint wasn't coming out of the gun, or gel coat wasn't coming out of the gun, and I'm like, what is wrong? Why isn't this working? And I finally figured out that there was no airflow. So then I have this other little, I have a messy garage. Paper towels everywhere from cleaning up gel coat out of my gun. So I have this other nice little compressor. I love this thing. I bought it a couple years ago when I was doing the renovations at our place in Florida, but I knew it isn't remotely up to the job. It isn't rated anywhere close to what this gun requires. So I did 2 coats yesterday using that, and you could do like 2 passes and then wait 15 seconds or 20 for the compressor to catch up, and then do a couple more passes and wait. And I did 2 batches that way and said, okay, this is not going to fly. I can't do the whole thing this way. So I ran off to Canadian Tire and I bought myself a much bigger compressor. Didn't really plan on going out and buying a compressor yesterday, but I tell you, best move I made for this job. It's awesome. I could just hold the trigger steady. Not that I did, but I could have held the trigger steady constantly for the entire almost liter of gel coat, and thing had no trouble at all keeping up. It just ran constantly, but it supplied all the air I needed, and it had plenty to spare. So yeah, once I got the new compressor at 5 o'clock yesterday, and thankfully it was all set up, had a quick connect and everything here, so all I had to do was plug my hose in and start spraying. So since that, it's gone really well, so I'm really happy with how it's gone. So that's where I'm at now, and then I can start. I'm gonna take off some masking, and then I don't know if I'm gonna start tomorrow. I might just give my body a day off and then start sanding. Woohoo! I'll show you a little trick I do. I started doing this probably when I was a teenager, if I had to do a little touch-up on my car and wanted to use a spray bomb. And when you mask it, you end up with the edge of the tape that you can't, you have to try to sand it out or whatever. You end up with a ridge. So I'd go around a little area, and what I do here is just leave the tape not quite, I stick it at the bottom, but I leave it just hanging out a little bit at the top. So I've done it like that. You can see here where I've peeled it off. There's a difference in the color from the old to the new. It's a little out of focus, but there's no ridge. So when I sand this, I won't have to fight to get rid of a ridge where the tape was. So yeah, all the way around as I ran that tape, I just made sure the top stayed at 1/8 inch off, and then when you spray it, it kind of mists in behind it a little bit and doesn't end up with a defined edge, so you don't have to make it disappear. So yeah, little trick I have been doing for close to 50 years. Good morning. Well, it's been a while since I've done an update, so I'll just bring you a little up to speed here. I guess first of all, I was working on the boat, and then yeah, it got to be the 2-year anniversary of boat construction. It was June 7th of 2022 that I started actually building the boat, and on June 7th of 2024 I thought, ooh, I should do a little video about the 2-year anniversary. However, I didn't. It just kind of never happened. And then a couple of days later, we left on a 3-week vacation with our travel trailer. And so now we've just been back for a couple of days, and I'm back at it again. And as I think you can see, I've been doing some sanding, and it's looking pretty darn good. It's not perfect yet, but I've moved around to the other side. So here, let me show you what I've been doing. So I had my disappointing, kind of in my mind at the moment, disaster of where I sanded through the sprayed on Gelcoat and got to what was underneath it, which isn't quite the same white, so it looked horrible. So then I re-sprayed a couple more coats on the whole hull after doing a bunch of prep work, and then I am sanding again, but I'm not taking it down as deep. I'm realizing there's limits to how far I can go, obviously, and I guess I figured out where that limit was, and I'm trying not to do a repeat. So I've been working on this side. I've got it pretty good, but I still need to get a little more done. I'm up to 600 grit. I need to take it to 1500, but it's getting pretty shiny. And so just to give you an idea, I don't know if I can get this to focus on it. Yeah, so there's kind of the spray. Some areas it sprayed on pretty decent. It's always a little far from like the shine of a car. Some areas, if I laid it on a little too thick, then you get a little mess like that. So that's where I start from, and I'm trying to get as nice a finish as I can. I'm not going to get a boat popped out of a mold in a factory, but so on this side here, I've just started. I've got that's probably, this isn't going to work out well, but anyway, that's water drops on the surface, and I've been over it a couple times with 40 grit. You can already, just with the rub of the hand, it's smoother than it was fresh out of the spray gun, but I got a long way to go on this. So anyway, I'm working away on getting the hull sanded down. So once I get that done, especially in the transom area where there's a whole lot of business with the outdrive, the swim platform, the trim tabs, there's a lot that has to be fastened to the stern, to the transom, and none of that can happen till it's finished sanding. And on the happy for me news is, while we were away on vacation, I got an email saying my engine and outdrive package is in Toronto, ready to be picked up. So I think Thursday, today's Monday, I think Thursday I'm gonna scoot down to Toronto and get my 280 horsepower Volvo Penta Duo-Prop engine outdrive package. So that's exciting. I'm not quite ready to install it yet, but that day will come soon enough. And yeah, so things are coming. So a bit of a milestone, I don't know, nice place to be, is I just finished sanding and polishing this side of the boat, which last week I did the other side. Before that I did the transom. So I'm not quite finished sanding and polishing, but I'm so close. I'm going to take a break, going to do other things that I really want to do and let my body recover, because it's hard on the back and everything. So all I have left to do is this little part below the little loss of focus there. So that little part you can see below the drip edge or whatever, I haven't sanded that yet. So that's not a lot of work to do, but I've got, I think, a very nice shine. It's not perfect, it's not as good as a brand new boat out of the mold, but I tell you, I'm happy. And I don't know, you can see there's a few kind of highs and lows. It's, like I say, it's not perfect, but for a home-built boat, fiberglass, gel-coated, sanded, they say it's just too much work, and they're kind of right, but I really wanted a gel coat finish. I was just afraid if it was a painted finish, bumpers would scratch through the paint, or, you know, whatever, just life. And then what do you do now? You repaint the boat every time that happens? Where the gel coat, the color's got some thickness, so even if you scrape it or scuff it with bumpers scrubbing and such, it'll still be the same color. So yeah, I've been getting a few things done. I've got the pump out hookup and the gas tank fill thingy and vent, and I've got the trim tabs on, and the outdrive, or at least the transom plates on. No engine on the inside, no outdrive on the outside. But now I can start, oh yeah, I got a vent in on this side, it's just sitting there, it's not screwed in, but yeah, now I can start actually installing stuff. I couldn't do any of that till I was done all this wet sanding, because I didn't want to be cutting holes in the side and getting water into the plywood and such. So yeah, now I can start doing stuff. So happy point to be at. Still, like I say, a little bit more to do, but I can bite that off someday when I am not just sick of it, which right now I am sick of it. So on to other things.